So as the question arose about Vinaya rules in Dhamma, in the practice of the Dhamma, the Vinaya rules, or any rules, or even the precepts, even though we have very important 5 precepts as laity, you practice, you do them, on a daily basis you practice them, you take them on your own. To abstain from certain things like killing, harming beings on purpose, taking something that is not given to you, having sexual misconduct. There's no intoxicants being taken, as well as obviously the big one, which is number 4. Number 4 was basically not speaking falsehood. The question arises, well, because I need to practice keeping precepts, I should abstain from speaking falsehood or not saying the truth and this and that. Yes, there's differences in opinion. Some bhikkhus will say even white lies are not allowed. Tweaking the truth is not allowed. I understand that and I appreciate that. However, one has to exercise wisdom throughout. So there isn't like a one-size-fits-all thing. But the thing which I would love to say here is that one can be practicing Vinaya assiduously, carefully, meticulously, to the letter, but with a very, very infested mind. Infested with what? Greed, anger, and therefore delusion, because they can't see that they are actually in the grasp of the defilements, while on the outside, for all intents and purposes, they're practicing Vinaya. Parrots going overhead, huh? Lovely. Because it's very easy for us to say, put on the hat, yes, I am practicing Sila, I am practicing the precept, I am practicing proper Vinaya. My question is quite simple at that point. Where is the heart? Where is the mind while you're practicing Sila? The Dhamma is still somewhat alive today, somewhat, in some form, but it is slowly, slowly fading away. Well, it's bound to happen. I mean, I'm still considering it quite fortunate for us to still have some semblance of it, to a point where we can have amongst us noble disciples, which is beautiful beyond words. I'm sure the Buddha and the great disciples would be proud to see individuals who are able to practice with, wholeheartedness, with a clear understanding of the threefold training, meaning Sila, Samadhi, Panya, working in unison. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this. When we separate them, the three, from each other, that's when we run into problems. In my own journey, I've seen different individuals at different stages of my life, from different backgrounds, etc., doing things under the name or guise of, well, this is my precept, this is my samadhi, or this is wisdom. They work hand in hand together. So it's dangerous when we take Vinaya and put it as the summum bonum of all that the Buddha taught, as say, this is it, this is the crown jewel of the practice, while the heart is not in the right place, the mind is not in the right place. It's very similar to a person trying to be generous but with a vicious mind, with a calculating mind, with a desirous mind as to what I'm going to be getting out of this donation I'm making, offering I'm making, this glass of water I'm giving you. I wonder how much reward I'm going to be reaping from this. Well, I'm giving it to a monk, a Buddhist monk. Of course it's going to be countless fold. So, sometimes the question is asked, what is the best time to eat for a monk, a bhikkhu, who takes 220 plus 7 precepts? The actual precepts to be taken are actually 220. 7 are more elaboratory, expository, clarifying types of, if you will, rules. Anyhow, depends. In the Theravada tradition, when you look at the suttas, the Buddha is talking to bhikkhus who had been advised, directed by him to go on pindapada, alms rounds. And the closest would be no less than, in fact, a lot more, far distant than a kilometer. But usually, some people have said it's like a kilometer at least from the closest village or the source of food. Meaning, that monk, that bhikkhu or bhikkhuni had to walk for a considerable amount of time and then sit somewhere and eat it after their alms round. And then you had other monks who sometimes the food would not be sufficient, or they would be still hungry. They would want to go back. There was a time when they were doing it often, actually. So the Buddha had to place a rule for that. I'm getting into these details because the question had come up earlier. So I want to clarify a few things here. So the Buddha was addressing the problem in setting up this precept, like he always did. For 20 years, there were no precepts. Many people don't realize this. 20 years of the sasana, the life of the Dhamma in the presence of Lord Buddha, 2,600 years ago, there were no precepts. 20 years, 2 decades. That's a generation. No, Vinaya as such. And they were fine. Functioning perfectly, beautifully. Why? Because there was the understanding, the common decency, if you will, the humanity, the consideration, the common sense of not doing certain things. But when you gather a lot of people who come in for whatever reason, free food, a lot of prestige, yes, monks do get a lot of respect to this day in Asia, even here in some places, in the West. Especially if you were coming from a villager, poor family, etc., or from the street, you didn't have anything to eat, nothing to wear. All of a sudden this becomes luxury. Plus the added factor that you are now in a position where even kings will bow down to you because of the robes. So you can see how tempting it becomes. So what this also does is opens the floodgates for a lot of shady characters to come in. Shady in the sense that they didn't have their heart in the right place. And this necessitated for situations where the Buddha had to bring out a rule to protect the Dhamma, to protect the sasana, the teaching, the dispensation that he had been already for 20 years, he and his students, the Arahants, were diligently working and maintaining. So it doesn't fall apart, and it could last a little bit longer. One time Venerable Sariputta asked Lord Buddha, Bhante, hearing you speak about the other Buddhas and their own dispensations eons ago, what were the differences? I'm paraphrasing, of course, very loosely. What were the differences that necessitated that one Buddha's dispensation lasted a lot longer than in others? And the Buddha smiles and says, it's the presence or absence of the Vinaya. At that point, Venerable Sariputta so lovingly says, Bhante, then please have us follow more precepts. Give us more. With the beautiful intention of making the sasana last longer. Like anything, however, because we have this human mind, which is plagued with avidya, ignorance, the defilements, even the Vinaya becomes an idol to worship. Like anything else. Even the Dhamma can become, and does become, a hindrance at one point in the journey of a person going towards arahantship. I was mentioning earlier how Venerable Sariputta, he became an arahant when he observed Lord Buddha giving a discourse, a description, and an answer to a question that was raised by this man. And Venerable Sariputta was fanning the Buddha at that time. And he was observing how the Buddha, in his explanation to this person, he was not attached to the Dhamma. This was the king of the Dhamma in his mind. He saw Lord Buddha. Because of him, we have the Dhamma. He's the one who gave us the path. Because of him we have Nibbana. Because of him we have cessation of dukkha. He was sitting there completely unattached to the Dhamma. And for the first time, Venerable Sariputta saw it like it is. And at that moment, Venerable Sariputta became one of the arahants. Why? Why? Because he saw the beauty of the Buddha's non-grasping of the Dhamma. Now remember, there was no Dhamma shown in the entire universe existence prior to the Buddha seeing it, discovering it again, or rediscovering it. The Dhamma is always there, but you needed Buddha to reveal it. He was the revealer, and he was not attached. Bringing it back to us, those who are trying to desperately make sure that the sasana is kept alive for a little bit longer in the world. We need to be cautioned against prestige. We need to be cautioned against even taking the Dhamma, even taking our understanding of the Dhamma too seriously. That way turning it into basically another form of ditthi. Ditthi is, well, if you have it, if it's there, we're not awakened. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. Buddha called it ditthimana, the conceit of having views. It's not just views of others, wrong views like micchaditthi. The Buddha doesn't talk only about micchaditthi, he also mentions ditthi. It's a contaminant of the mind, but it's so subtle where it can cause a person to hold so dearly to their understanding of whatever it is. Earlier we were talking about Vinaya rules, let's say, sila. That can be your ditthi. Having an idea about your practice. That can turn into a ditthi. Views. Not the view itself per se, but the attitude towards it. So, I find a tremendous encouragement there offered in the story that I just shared about Venerable Sariputta in the presence of Lord Buddha and seeing how he was not attached to the Dhamma that he revealed. That is an encouragement. I find myself inspired by that scene, by that episode from their lives. And try to superimpose it on my own understanding of the teachings and practice. And check myself all the time. And that's what I'm trying to suggest here, offer you, in taking that with you and looking at how attached am I to this? Is it free-flowing? Is it there? Am I still very much on target as far as, let's say, practicing my precepts, my sila? Okay. But is it going in conjunction with my samadhi, my mental cultivation, which is not an intellectual endeavor? Again, it has to do with your emotional well-being. Another word for mind is chitta. Chitta. Some teachers have called it the heart, which I don't see any problem with. Some people call it the mind, the emotional mind. Bhante Punnaji called it an emotional mind, etc. But then that is followed by a beautiful statement from the Buddha. In the discourses you hear akuppa ceto vimutti, the unshakable liberation, serenity of the mind or the heart. Doesn't matter, however you look at it. But that only comes when there is a harmonic connection between all three. Sila, Samadhi, Panya, which is what is taking place, that's guiding you. It's like the North Star, guiding you in the darkness of ignorance that you have to navigate through in this thing called life. Wisdom, while being supported with mindfulness, which has turned into clear comprehension, which in turn turns into wisdom. So you have this thing flowing all the time. So we don't put it on hold. We don't shelve it. Clear comprehension. It's always there. When you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have your mindfulness on hold. You don't have it suspended or paused or put on the bookshelf or the shelf next to you, the headstand, next to your phone, next to your bottle of water. Yeah. When the day's up, when the sun's up, and I got myself cleaned up, brushed up, done whatever I had to do, that's when I start being aware, mindful. Nope. Every time your eyes flicker, mindfulness has to be there. Every time there is the thought that you need to move your body while in a restful state, but you're becoming conscious. At that moment, you're moving your body. A noise comes up, what happens, and you're turning to see what's happened. Before you turn, your mindfulness needs to be there like a guard. It is a guard. It is a protector, right? Protector of your mind. Because you always have to be on guard, because the defilements are always there on the attack, non-stop, with their sharp weapons, constantly ready, waiting, just waiting to attack. So we cannot afford to attach ourselves to things, including the Dhamma, including Sila. So that's why I wanted to say these few words about in connection to Sila or Vinaya rules. Of course, I can't get into Vinaya rules too much because, well, that pertains mostly to monastics. And I know that this recording is going to be for everyone. So that's why I just gave as much as it would be pertinent to most listeners. So good.